Now, according to you, according to your data, the Fed will find it hard to raise rates very much in the future. Because look at that. The Fed is now the central banker to the world, and the world is in a bit of trouble. Central banker to the extent I hadn't realized these kind of figures. Share of like the dollar in global forex transactions is 88%. That is phenomenal. And the share of global reserves in dollar terms is 62%, extremely high. So no longer can the Fed just look at America and the American economy. Is that what you're trying to say?
Yeah, because, like, even though America's share in the global economy has declined over time and currently is about 24%, 2 decades ago that number used to be about 32, 33%. The US as a financial superpower has never been bigger and that omnipotent. And so therefore what the Fed does really matters for the rest of the world.
Right.
By some calculations, around 50 to 60% of the world's economies, they have their currencies tied to the US dollar. So they're very sensitive to what happens to the US dollar. The Chinese currency, that's been under so much pressure over the last few months, has really been under pressure because of these high interest rates in part that are being anticipated in the United States. So the Fed has to be much more conscious of what's happening in the global economy. And if the global economy is as weak as we think it currently is, it's hard to imagine that the Fed will be able to increase interest rates that much this year. So at least
because if they raise it, then the global economy suffers, and then America, because it's so tied up with the global economy, including the Fed itself, will also suffer. So even if they're thinking of the American economy only, they have to think global now.
That's right, Ben. And economic growth in America is showing some signs of slowing down.
Because of, for example, oil and the shale.
Exactly, because of the bust that's taking place in the energy sector, because the manufacturing sector, which is so tied to what's happening in China and the rest of the world, is slowing down very sharply. And so, in fact, the American economy in the fourth quarter is estimated to have grown below 2%. And even in the first quarter, the early data releases do suggest that achieving a 2% growth rate for the American economy in 2016 is going to be quite difficult in the face of these global headwinds. And that's something the Fed will take into calculation.